son is racing.
Welcome, race fans, to another episode of the Rubbin' is Racing Daily Fantasy NASCAR Show. We are at Liehr and myself's home track this weekend for the Hollywood Casino 400 from Kansas Speedway and Week 5 of the Chase.
NASCAR takes over Kansas Speedway for Race 2, Round 2 of the Chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup. Kansas Speedway is a 1.5-mile tri-oval racetrack in Kansas City, Kansas.
Interesting fact here about Kansas is the pole winner has gone 1-1 4 times in 21 races here. It happened in both races with the next Gen X car of 2013, with Matt Kenseth winning the spring and Harvick winning in the fall of the Chase race.
After an overcast start to the weekend, we should have clear skies and temps in the mid-80s, but wind may be a concern for racing on Sunday, as they're expecting winds, sustained winds, and gusts of 20 to 30 miles an hour plus. So watch the effect that'll have on the race cars this weekend, boys. But with that said, let's get into the picks. That's why you're here. Liehr, do us the honors as we get into the burning rubber.
Burning rubber from the Midwest and the wheat's blowing, baby!
Adrian, go ahead and give us your pick for burning rubber, buddy.
My burning rubber pick is the guy that I sat in the grandstands Charlotte on Sunday afternoon and watched take home the victory and lock himself into the round of 8 for the NASCAR Sprint Cup. I'm taking Jimmy Johnson, who's got the most momentum. You know, he costs a little more than you like Jimmy Johnson to, and more than he's been all season. He's kind of creeped below 9K at certain times. He's 10,600 this week, so his price is increasing, but that's because this team has been so hot lately. And do you take away a couple speeding penalties, and they've probably won a couple more races in the Chase. He won the race last weekend, so obviously that team has the right momentum, and they're going into this race with no worries. There's no stress that they have to perform well to move on to the next round, because they're already locked in. So they're going to just be throwing Hail Marys and trying to win this race basically just to prove themselves. Jimmy won this race in 2015 in May. He has 20 starts here. He's only finished outside the top 10 in 4 starts. He has 8 top 5s along with 3 wins, and that includes the second best average finish at Kansas among active drivers. And the only one ahead of him is Chase Elliott, who only has 1 career start here. In my opinion, you want to pay the price tag for Jimmy Johnson. I know we're going to get into talk about the Gibbs guys at the front of the field who are going to be really fast, but also remember Jimmy Johnson's starting way back in 21st. So, he can't even see the front of the field when this thing gets started. And I can promise you, he's probably going to be there at the end, and he's going to find the front.
Yeah, AW. By the way, awesome to have you back, brother. Jimmy Johnson, last week, I just had a feeling that he was going to take it home. And by God, he did, and he broke that winless streak there. But this week, I've got a little bit of mixed feelings on him, mostly just because it boils down to they are already locked into the next stage as far as being in the top 8. So they don't have to go out and do anything tremendous this week or even next week at, rolling the dice at Talladega. They don't have that pressure on them. So it's one of those ways they could go either direction here. They could, go for the win just because they want to win another race at a 1.5-mile track, and then also, get them higher up in the point standings as far as, being up there. But also, too, I don't know, from the 21st spot, he's got awesome place differential potential, especially, too, if he can win this race. I don't know if he'll be that dominator that you need to lead all the laps and have the fastest laps. He will gain those points as he goes through the field by getting place differential, but I don't know with that $10,600 price point, man. He's got to be up front and has to lead laps to pay off. And this is a shorter race. This is only 267 laps. So, it's going to take at least, I would say, half of the race for him just to kind of get up towards the front of the field. So that only leaves, 130 some laps for him to really get that in there as far as, laps led. Now he will gain some fastest laps getting through the field. But I just don't know if he'll pay off that $10,600 price point when you've got other guys at the top that will lead those laps and get those fastest laps. But I definitely will have exposure to Jimmy Johnson this week. He is, on a tear as far as that team goes with momentum, like you stated, and he's definitely one of those guys that you will have to have some exposure to this weekend. for that just in case he does win and goes all the way from 21st to first. It's going to be a must-own play.
I don't have him necessarily winning this race, and I don't think I have to with him starting 21st to even pay off his exorbitant price tag.
That's exactly what I was going to say, Poppa. I was like, where he's starting, he doesn't need to lead the laps. No. Because where he's starting, if he finishes top 5, he's going to be one of the top 5 point scorers on the scoring system.
Absolutely. And we've seen, like, because of what you were saying, Liehr, with this being a track with less laps, like, the premium's going to be on finding the leader and then finding the place differential. And you're just not going to find a better place differential car than Jimmie Johnson. And I'm sorry, for me this week, Jimmie Johnson is almost 100% like in every one of my lineups at this point in time.
Agree.
With the way he was running in practice 1, and especially if I think he'll run as well as I think in practice 2 and 3. There's zero chance at this point that I could fade Jimmie Johnson on place differential alone. And you'll see why. Because, like, when you put together these lineups, his price is expensive. But as long as you're not on Lear's burning rubber pick, the next guy that's up, it doesn't hamper you, right? But with Lear's strategy, where Lear's going, I totally understand why he has to get off Jimmie Johnson because of the price. But you'll see when we talk about my lineups and I think where Adrian's going, you won't need to do that. But before we get there, go ahead, Liehr, give us your burning rubber pick, buddy.
All right, fellas and ladies out there. I'm going to be going with my boy, number 78, Martin Truex Jr.
What? No, never.
Yeah. Are you guys surprised by that? So, but an awesome experience last night. Me and my fiance and son, we got to go out and go meet Martin Truex at the Bass Pro here in Kansas City. But he and his team is this is the best season that they've had on the Sprint Cup circuit. And the other part of this is he's making his 400th Sprint Cup start this weekend here at Kansas. His Furniture Row racing team has really got great strategy at these 1.5 mile tracks. You look at earlier in the season, you got Texas Motor Speedway at the Duck Commander 500. He started 3rd. He did finish 6th, but he led 141 laps, scored 93 points that week. He also dominated the Go Bowling 400 here at Kansas in the spring, leading 172 laps, basically dominating the entire race, except for that issue that they had with the tire that they had to come into the pit road. But him and Cole Pern and Truex have really done some amazing things this year. What's that?
His name is pronounced Pern. Like, he's told the Fox Sports guys all season, like, his name is not Pern, it's Cole Pern.
Pern.
I'm sorry, it will forever be Cole Pern to me.
No, he's Cole Pern.
So him and Cole Pern have been on the same page, most of the whole season. And, this week at Kansas with the chase, they're sitting in that 7th spot. And that's a tough spot after they've gotten 2 wins under their belt in the chase so far. But they've been running fast, again already this week at Kansas. They qualified in the 4th spot for Sunday's race. His cost this week, though, is really expensive at $11,100, which it's going to hinder you on some of your lineups this week and your strategy that you're going to be able to take. But in 16 starts here, he's got 4 top 5s and 5 top 10s. He has not won here yet either at the Kansas Speedway. And like I said, with Talladega coming up next week and that question mark of anything can happen at Talladega with it being a restrictor plate race. So they want to solidify that next spot into the top 8 here at Kansas. And starting from that top 5 position, they're in a great spot to get up to the front, lead laps. They're all with their Toyota brothers up there, have a great finish. And I really think that Truex is going to be a dominator this weekend and definitely prove that he's going to be worth that $11,100 salary. And I think, too, that that's going to scare a lot of people off of him this week. So you're probably going to get a pretty nice ownership percentage of Martin Truex this week, especially, too, coming off of that 31-point fantasy performance last week at Charlotte, which was also a 1.5. But go get him, Truex, this week, buddy. And also, too, I'm going to go ahead and throw this out there as well. I mean, obviously, you guys are going to comment, but I'm going to give away this postcard that I got signed last night from Truex to anybody and everybody that comments and likes the show. You have to like the show and comment on the show, and I will send this out to one of our lucky viewers this week, regardless of where he finishes.
Once again, to one of our lucky viewers, as he only has one of them, not to everyone that will comment. You got to watch your language on that, buddy. As far as
to be entered into the
there you go, there you go.
Win it, you have to like or comment the show.
There you go. I like that. All right, dude. I love Martin Truex Jr., and he's the man, and he's been running really well. but he's already in the next round. Like, because he hasn't had problems, the top cars are already all through the next round. So I'm not sure that your analysis, like, unless something crazy happens, like they've just basically buyed through. So I'm not sure your analysis there is where you want it to be. I also don't think that that the rest of his JGR affiliated teammates are going to give him the benefit of the doubt and let him get around at this stage in the chase. I think they're going to fight him off. And I think that basically what happens is if we assume no pit problems, no nothing, he's going to go 4-4. And at 11,100, that's not going to get it done for you, especially when I can save money by Jimmy Johnson, and Jimmy Johnson, to get that same point total, only has to go up 10 spots, right? And they equal out. I believe it's 10 spots. I'm just doing the math quickly in my head. But like, that's the problem I have with Truex this weekend. So unless you have him being a dominator in this race and leading laps like he did in the spring, then I don't see any way you can play him. Adrian, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I can't really agree with you more, Poppa. I mean, I love Martin Truex Jr., but I was at Charlotte last weekend, but I'm not sure Martin Truex Jr. I mean, he might have like missed his plane or something, because it didn't seem like he showed up last week. He just seemed like he was never really around at Charlotte. I don't
under the weather.
Well, yeah, that's true, but I just honestly I just don't see it at that price tag, because he doesn't necessarily need a win, but the Toyota teammates of his need the win, and they're going to be up there in front of him, and it's going to take a lot for him to be able to pass them. And at over $11,000 that it's going to cost for Martin Truex Jr., you're going to need him to get by those guys and get by those guys quick, and hope that he never has a bad pit stop, because he's going to have to keep leading those laps, because the amount of laps he has to lead just to overcome, like if Jimmy Johnson finishes 7th, is like, I think he's going to have to lead like, I don't even know what the number is, but it's more than 30, I'm pretty sure. So like, I just don't understand like why you're going to pay that much money for Martin Truex Jr. I'm going to have some exposure for him, but for me, like what he does to the rest of your lineup, there's just no way that I can play Martin Truex Jr. heavily this week. Most weeks I'm 100% in on Martin Truex Jr. Not this week. He just costs way too much, and like he costs as much as drivers used to cost when there was only 5 drivers to pick on DraftKings. That's kind of where I draw the line.
Liehr, we beat you up a little bit on your pick. You want a chance to defend yourself?
No, I don't need a chance to defend myself, man. The proof is in the pudding, and it's just gonna happen, y'all. So I'm just telling you.
All right. As long as you don't park in spot 78, I think Adrian and I are okay this week.
By the way, side note, did you guys like that? That watched the video? I put it on our YouTube page and posted that. My fiance and I went to a dinner on Sunday brunch and with family. And not even knowing it, just parked in the number 48 spot. And I told her right then and there, I said, you know what, that's a sign Jimmy Johnson's going to win today. And that's when I posted on our YouTube page that Jimmy Johnson's going to win. And by God, he won. It was crazy.
All right. So getting back from Learland with random signs from the divine, I'm going to go with a little bit of a fact-based approach to my Burning Rubber pick this week. And I'm going to give you Kyle Busch at 10,000. Rowdy's the man. Yeah, like, I know you guys should never be surprised with me, like, but guys, like, there's a reason why I'm on Rowdy every week and why he always pays off. And most of the time when I tell you to be on him, you need to have him, and he's in the winning lineups. And this is going to be another one of those weeks. Team JGR and Rowdy's on fire, with his last 3 fantasy results being 70 points and had to have him on the lineup to win. 92 points, had to have him on the lineup to win. And last week, 51 points, which is a little low, but guess what? Had to have him on the lineup to win. And it's just, he won here in the spring race, leading 69 laps after Truex had the tire problem. Last fall, he finished 5th here. This car was fast. He was 1/1000th of a second behind Kenseth. He is extremely happy with his race car, and we know when Kyle Busch is extremely happy with his race car, we get good Rowdy, and Rowdy that tears up racetracks. I also want to mention, because we talked about this multiple times on our show, when he runs the Xfinity Series race at the same track, he tends to be stuck. He's doing that again this weekend. Look for Rowdy to possibly go back-to-back with wins here at Kansas and get it done.
Oh, I'm always loving me some Rowdy just because of his, fantasy output. He's always bringing it every week, just like Martin Truex Jr. Even though I'm bashing Truex this week, the only reason I'm really not playing Truex is because of his price. It's not because I don't think he's going to be contending for the win tomorrow. I just don't think he's going to lead enough laps and make up for his price. Kyle Busch, however, I don't know. It's right there where it's like I like him and I like where he, the speed that they have, but he does cost a little bit as well, just like Truex, and he's not much less in cost than Truex is. So he's gonna need to actually get ahead of Matt Kenseth at some point and lead those laps, and it's gonna be tough. When you're competing with guys like Truex and Harvick and Johnson who are going to eventually work their way towards the front of the field. I mean, it's kind of like just you're really taking a lottery at this point when you're spending this much on a driver. But, Kyle Busch has consistently shown the speed this year, and I've actually built a few lineups that really work well, that, pairing him and Jimmy Johnson. And you can make those same lineups work with him and Truex. But, it just depends on – you really just got to dig deep for that value if you're going to pay up for these guys. But, they've consistently proven they're the guys to go.
Yeah, Rowdy for me, it's obvious from today, from practice, and then also from qualifying that, he's going to be fast. I thought he was going to probably take the qualifying round, but one of those guys you definitely have to have exposure to. He does cost a lot of money, which all the top end guys do, $10,000. But there's definitely some salary relief there between him and Jimmy. We're dropping down to $600. But as far as Kyle Busch, he's 17. He's sitting 17 points back in the standings. I'm sorry, he's sitting 9 points back in the standings, sitting in third place in the chase. So he's one of those guys too that is going to be looking hungry for getting a win, and getting the win here in the spring at Kansas. That should give him some confidence here that he didn't have before, because he never won at Kansas before throughout his lengthy career. But I definitely will have some exposure to Kyle Busch. I think that he for sure has an opportunity. Him and Kenseth will be fighting it out, for the first, 50 some laps, I would say, and working that out between the two of them, going probably back and forth. But it really just depends on who you like more. But the right thing about him is, he's definitely on the JGR team, and they've got a lot of speed this weekend at Kansas. So I would definitely have some exposure to Kyle Busch this week.
Adrian, since you're clearly liking some guys that are more expensive, we're going to need some sources of value. Who's your first value guy that you're looking at this week?
My guy this week is Eric Almirola in the number 43 car. The guy in the past 3 weeks and on DraftKings has scored 39 points, 46 points, and 51 points. All of those points totals were when his salary was under $6,500. This week they bumped it up a little bit to $6,800, but I still think it's a perfect situation to play Eric Almirola. He underqualified big time this weekend. I'm not really sure what happened in qualifying, but it wasn't good for the number 43 team. They qualified 35th. In 9 starts at Kansas, he has finishes of 31st or better in all of them. So that's +4 place differential right there. And that's at the worst in 9 races. He has 3 top 10s in those 9 races, and 7 of those 7 of his starts at Kansas were top 24 finishes. And a top 24 finish would give you 11 place differential. And, that's pretty good odds, 7 out of 10 for a top 24. And that's exactly what you're looking for out of Eric Almirola. That's going to give you above 40 points at a very, very low cost. In my opinion, he's just a plug and play. He'll probably be on 100% of my lineups. And if it burns me, it's going to burn me with me knowing that it was the right play.
All right, AW, I'm right there with you, man. As far as the Eric Almirola play, he paid off huge dividends for me last week, as he was my value guy as well, scoring 51 points. And he was just a must-own last week. And this week should just solidify that even more with his 35th starting position. And here at Kansas, his worst finish ever at Kansas was 31st. So there's no other direction for this guy to go than up. And if he can get that same kind of production as he did last week and have some of those carnage wrecks and stuff like that play through with him getting through them, definitely without a doubt, this guy is going to be a value play, and he's going to be in some of my lineups for sure.
Yeah, see, I like where your guys' head's at. The problem is this car was really slow this week. It was slow in practice and slow in qualifying. I'm not sure if that's a car problem. Unless I see this car speed up dramatically in practice or even run, at least look comfortable running on this track, then I'll be on the Almirola play. Other than that, I can't be on him. Yeah, like because of the increase in price tag, and I think you're going to see a lot of DFS NASCAR people do what they do, which is chase the points from the week before. And like you guys have both said, he was extremely lucky to get through all of that crap last week to get him to the 51. Now, I think Adrian's analysis was solid that his place differential, if he does what he's normally supposed to here, gets you to that point total that you want. I'm just afraid that there's going to be too many people owning him, and that extra $300 does make quite a bit of difference, especially if you're spending up for the guys that I'm talking about spending up for this week. Liehr, who's your pick for value, buddy?
I'm going to be going in the same kind of direction as AW here, picking a guy from low-hanging fruit down there. But I'm going to be rolling with Landon Castle in the number 38 front row motorsports vehicle. He had a great race last weekend, scoring 38 fantasy points, and it was a staple on many winning lineups. But this week at Kansas, he's starting from the 34th position, so just in front of Almirola there. But at a great price point again at $5,300. And this is basically kind of like we talk about a lot how Boyer, Edwards, and then also Jamie McMurray, this is kind of their home track. But this is also kind of a home track too for Landon Castle because he's originally from Iowa. He definitely would consider this, part of his home racing track. But he has 12 starts here. His best finish here at Kansas is 17th, but that happened a very long time ago. But his average start here is 36 and average finish is 31st. And if there will be hopefully some carnage for him on Sunday, because he's going to be one of those guys. I mean, this is a 1.5 mile track. He's not going to go a ton of laps down, but he probably will go 1 or 2 laps down with most of those guys in the rear of the field. But I think what will help out a lot is, for his place differential is that wind that they're going to have, the 20 to 30 degree mile per hour winds. And it's going to be hotter too than it was today in qualifying. So it's going to make the tires more slick and definitely with that wind. I mean, there's definitely going to be a chance for some wrecks here this weekend. So I look for him to have a very, very strong race here and pay off his salary. And I look for him to have a good strong 20s, mid 20s, early 20s finish here. And I'm hoping that they can do that and pay off his salary big time because he'll be another vehicle that you'll need to take down your tournament.
Yeah, I think the wind argument with there being some carnage this weekend is probably a solid one. I just hope to God there's no carnage because every time there is, it seems to screw my lineup specifically. The problem that I have with the Castle play is the opportunity cost. There's just other drivers I like in that area, that range a little bit more, like Scott. I think they're in faster equipment that we've seen move better the last few weeks. And you know how much I love playing Castle. That team just doesn't seem to be moving through the back end of the pack like they were at the beginning and middle part of the season. And I'd rather spend up a little bit or spend down a little bit and get other guys. Like another one that I'm really on in that area is McDowell. I just think he's qualified in that range that we want him in. Adrian, your thoughts, buddy?
I actually really like the Landon Castle play. He's really cheap and a lot cheaper than he's been most of the season. So it's a good plug and play in my opinion. I also really like the speed that Brian Scott's shown. He seems to have a lot more speed than those guys priced around him. In my opinion, it's between Landon Castle and Brian Scott. You might get, you might venture out for Regan Smith maybe, but I just don't know if he can reach that far, too much farther down than that. I'm not really going to play Annette or any of those guys this weekend. They just seem to be too slow.
Am I too slow? Way off the pace. But a guy that is anything but off the pace is my value play. And Liehr was a little upset, but when we first saw DraftKings pricing come out, all three of us texted each other and said that this guy was criminally underpriced for who he is at this track. And then he sits on the pole. My pick should be no surprise to you and Matt Kenseth at $8,700. Let's start off here. If you plug him into your lineup, he brings down your total for the 5 drivers remaining, $73 whole. That's not enough to do anything. He's a free square this week if you want to play him and you see him leading laps or scoring enough points to warrant the $8,700 price tag. His current form is just freakish. He has 4 consecutive top 10s in the last 4 races, 3 consecutive top 5s, including 2 second-place finishes. He also has 2 wins here at Kansas. He's led 658 laps at Kansas, including 153 last fall in the chase race, making him the driver with the most laps led at Kansas. Team JGR, plus, if you want to pay for him, Truex has dominated this race in the spring, last fall, the spring before that. Other than Logano pushing Kenseth out of the way on the last lap to beat him here, like in the fall last year, Kenseth would have dominated this race at 8,700. It's foolish to pass him up, in my opinion.
It's so funny because, Jamie texted me earlier this week, right when the pricing came out about Wednesday, and he said, "Who do you like this week?" And I told him immediately, I just said Matt Kenseth. I was like, he's 8,700. Are you crazy? And like Poppa said, all three of us were like, yeah, that's right. So it was the first guy I was on this weekend. And, it turned out to be that he got the pole. So, it doesn't really surprise me at all. Matt Kenseth's been a stud here at Kansas. Poppa's laid out the facts for you. It just makes sense. You just take the guy and you just roll with it. The Gibbs cars are way too fast to not pay for them at this price tag. And Matt Kenseth's going to be 100% of my lineups. Free space.
All I really want to say, boys, is just ditto. That's all I want to leave it at. But really, though, here's the other thing, folks, that you really have to think about, okay? Matt Kenseth, $8,700, no brainer whatsoever. Guy's on the pole. Guy's going to lead laps. Guy's going to get dominator points. But you need to think outside the box a little bit too, kids. What helped me last week is everybody was, Kevin Harvick and, blah, 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 blah. And what happened? Kevin Harvick had an issue and was minus 22 points.
Would that be because you listened to one of your best friends and he told you to fade him?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, it does help to have other voices in your ear, too, to help you out as well. But you definitely will have to, at least, if you're all about Matt Kenseth, great. I think you definitely should be, because I am too, and all three of us are. But if you are a multiple entry player, you need to ensure that you have a lineup that does not include Matt Kenseth. And I will just leave it at that.
Yeah, and since Kenseth is sitting on the pole, I figured.
And here's the thing. What do you guys think his ownership percentage is going to be?
Well,
Matt Kenseth, about 38.
I would say 48, probably.
I don't know how you cannot say over 50% with his price and where he's starting at. I mean,
he might be. He might be.
Yeah, it really just depends on the contest that you're playing in. But I mean, throughout the whole DraftKings tournaments, I don't see him own any less than 40.
Fair enough. Clearly, we're all on the Kenseth play. It's just whether or not you believe he's value at DraftKings, underpriced salary there. It's now time for everybody's favorite segment, Going to the Garage, where we talk a little bit of trash on drivers or on their standing in the chase, maybe perhaps this week, or on their pricing or on their current form. Or maybe it is we just don't like that driver. Adrian, who do you got for us to send to the garage this week, buddy?
Yeah, well, the thing is about this guy is he's not allowed to stand in the chase anymore. They kicked him out a couple weeks ago. I'm going to take Jamie McMurray in the number one car, guys. It's just, in my opinion, at $7,900, you're paying $8K for this guy. Spin up and play Casey Kane, or spin down, play Ryan Blaney. Just don't play, McMurray at this price. He just costs too much for what he's going to get you. And Blaney can get you the same thing at $500 less. And there's other guys around that price tag who can get you the exact same thing. Like I said, Eric Almirola at $6,800. I mean, I'm not going to play McMurray on probably a single lineup. He's starting 23rd, which people might see the place differential there. I'm not looking for it. He has 19 starts at Kansas and only 3 top 10s. It's just not a play that I'm going to make.
Yeah, the crazy part, too, is, like we talked about a little bit a while ago, but this is his home track and what he considers his home track. But he definitely does not have the history here that you would like for a player, one of your drivers, to put on your teams. And, I'm right there with you. I just can't put any stock into Jamie McMurray. The price just isn't there to warrant that he's going to produce anything and pay off his salary. But I will give it to him, though. Sweet paint scheme this weekend with the Kansas State logo on the hood, though. Definitely think that's pretty awesome. That's about it about Jamie McMurray this weekend.
Yeah, the place differential is intriguing. The problem is I think he'll probably get beat like K-State does and not finish anywhere near the top. Jab at K-State as I'm wearing purple of all things. No, the K-State thing's fine, and it's a cool looking ride, and I'm glad to see him get a new sponsor on that says number one ride. But I'm agreeing with you. He's just too expensive at $7,900. It's an opportunity cost play for me. Anytime I try to if I'm designing him as a place differential play, I have to get off some of the guys I like up top, and I'm not sure that I want to do that. So, Liehr, who are you sending to the garage, buddy?
I'm going to be going with Ryan Newman. number 31. He's just been okay this year. Not horrible, not terrific. His average fantasy points so far this year has been 27. He's been really decent at these 1.5 mile tracks. And for some reason, he had a great race last week at Charlotte where he started 21st and finished 4th with a massive 58 fantasy points in a must-own play. And the crazy part is Adrian and I talked before the race, and we ended up talking about Newman being a play. And after talking it out a little bit, and by God, did he ever become a play? But this week and there was a thing though. Last week he qualified 21st. This week he's qualified 9th. Now, is somewhat appealing is his price at $8,000, which is up, by the way, $600 from off of last week's great performance. But I promise this is just a mirage, and it's only tempting and only going to give you false hopes. But his average starting position here is 13th, and average finish is 17th. He'd like to have another good showing in a 1.5 mile track after signing his new extension with RCR. But him and his crew chief, Luke Lambert, need to be on the same page here. But just for me, boys, too much risk this week for Newman. I just don't forecast him, getting enough points to be acceptable, including all the fastest laps and place differential. I just see him dropping back in the field, eliminating those additional points that he would accumulate. But I really just see him finishing in the late teens, early 20s, maybe scoring 20, high ceiling of 30 points, which will not pay off for your salaries this week. I just think your money's spent, better elsewhere this week. And I mean, he could, finish 8th or 9th. But for his price, that's only going to produce you 35, 40 points when you throw in some fastest laps in there. So just
Dude,
not worth it.
He's not going to finish 8th or 9th. I'm confident in saying that. Those RCR cars are not as fast as they've been made out to be. I agree with you that you just do not want to be on him this week. He's the kind of car, in my opinion, that when he qualifies 17th or later, he's an interesting play. But when he doesn't, it's not a smart play in NASCAR.
Yeah, I was all over Newman last week, but it's because he was starting 20th. He overqualified, and at his price tag, I'm just not really going to pay for it because what Poppa said, the opportunity cost to play Ryan Newman, he's really going to have to work some magic to make up for the hole you have in your lineup because you put him on there. Like, he's just, in my opinion, he's just cost too much for what you're going to get out of him. He should be about 7,300. It's not a place I'm going to be this weekend. He's not going to get a top 10, so he's going to get you negative points. And I'm going to take a guy that, like Eric Almirola, is going to move through the field.
Yep, and I think we're pretty much in agreement there. And another guy I think we're in agreement, but there might be a little bit of arguments because of his cost, is Alex Bowman, who I'm sending to the garage at 7,700. Look, I know he's a little too cheap for as fast as that car's look, and that's a legit argument in my opinion. But I think because of his cost, he'll be a little bit overowned. And I have him falling back and not leading any laps. The negative points he loses for falling back are close to enough to crush his value, to crush that $7,700 value. In his last five races, anytime he's started in the top 10, he's actually gotten you negative fantasy points, which doesn't pay off $0, much less $7,700. This is just too much risk for a car that I'll expect to be overowned and that'll get you negative points. When you subtract the spots that he should fall back, you can get the exact same ceiling without the risk of going negative by playing some of the guys in the 6s and 5 ranges that we've already talked about that we like in the value. That's why I'm off Bowman this week, dude. I can't risk the negative points from him. And I see no scenario in which this car leads laps or wins this race.
That car didn't even lead laps when Dale Earnhardt Jr. was driving it. I'm a Dale Earnhardt Jr. fan, but Dale Earnhardt Jr. has never been one to lead laps, and that team's definitely not going to lead any laps on Sunday with all the talent that's at the front of the field. Guys that are still competing for a championship. But give it to Alex Bowman. He was driving a hell of a race, last week before the tire went down. He was a top car. He could have probably taken the lead at one point away from Kevin Harvick. So I'm really, I see where everyone, is kind of looking at Alex Bowman and saying there's a lot of speed there, but the price that he costs, it's just not a place that I'm going to go. We don't really have a lot of positions to move forward, and I'm really going to spend up for some guys this week. So he's not in the price range that I'm looking for a driver at.
Liehr.
Let's go on to the next segment.
Short and sweet to the point. Liehr apparently also doesn't like any Bowman.
That is correct.
Welcome to the segment of the show where we put together a lineup. It will be in the 15K lug nut this week. That's the $5 contest over there on DraftKings. Remember, we encourage you to not duplicate this lineup, as the purposes of us putting this lineup together is to just show you how we're thinking about NASCAR this week and to show you the proper process in building a NASCAR lineup. Adrian, kick us off this week.
I think we're going to go with the Chad Knaus protege that drives the number 48 car.
Yeah, dude. I just think that that's the right place to start off, too. And we're going to throw Jimmy Johnson on this lineup. And Liehr, because I'm going to hedge your Truex fandom and keep you from putting him on the lineup.
I wasn't going to go there because I know both you boys are against that, but I'm going to use the consensus pick and roll with the guy that's just a no-brainer, Matt Kenseth.
All right, we'll go ahead and we'll throw Kenseth on there. I am going to go back. Now, here's the question that we want to ask, and this is where some people that may have watched the show are a little bit confused, because I literally recommended as my burning rubber the car number 2 and my value the cards in number 1. Now, my race vision, I have those guys trading off, right? Kyle Busch is better on restarts than Kenseth. I see Kyle Busch taking the lead, Kenseth getting it back as the faster car, and then basically trading off all day long. If you have it, do you guys have different race visions than that? If so, what are they? No,
I think we play Kyle. In my opinion, I'd play Kyle Busch.
And Liehr, let's give you, you want to make the Truex argument, make it, bud.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have a different race vision than that, but we've already gone off the train of what I would do, so we'll just keep on going where you guys are going.
All right, so I'll go ahead and plug and play Kyle Busch. That leaves us $6,900 per driver remaining. Adrian, where do you want to go next, man?
That's a really tough choice at this price tag, but I'm really liking, what Jamie said with Landon Castle.
Yeah, and that'll help free up some salary to give Jamie and I some guys to pick with a little bit more oomph. The Landon Castle play is interesting. Like I said, I personally prefer Scott and saving an extra $100.
Playing the lottery, but I agree. I think Scott has a little more speed, but Landon Castle, I think, is a better driver.
Fair enough. Now, you know what? Since we kind of bum rushed over Liehr, I'll just put Scott on that team with Castle. Liehr, that gives you $10,200. It's everybody but Truex and Harvick. Who do you want, man?
How would it end up being like that, huh?
Well, I wanted to give you the flexibility. If we have money left over, I'll go spend it somewhere else.
Hashtag anyone but Truex.
Hashtag ain't got no money for Truex.
Right. But there's absolutely a ton of options from that price point, fellows, and we can sit here and talk about them kind of one by one. But I think two interesting plays that you've got at your disposal there, for me particularly, would be Chase Elliott in the 13th spot. I think he's gone up in price enough to where people will be off that, especially coming off of his performance last week, where, I mean, the guy just absolutely was out front, dominated over 100 laps of laps led. And he was well on his way to, if he wasn't caught up in the carnage there, I think he would have had a great fantasy day. Would he have gotten the win? I don't know. But as far as fantasy-wise, he would have gotten you the points he would have needed. And he's starting from 13th this week. So, they're on kind of a heater too. So they need to have a good performance this week. But a non-chaser, Kyle Larson, that guy just came out of nowhere last week, with his 25th starting position. And they screwed it up again this week at Kansas. He's starting again, I believe, from the 24th spot. So kind of almost in the same area that he was last weekend. And he had a top 5 finish. So
straight qualified like garbage yet again this week.
Yeah, and so he had 61 points, and he was a must-own that you had to have last week. So another 1.5-mile track. So, interesting there. But then you've also got, Brad Keselowski that you could put on this team. Also the dominator here, Joey Logano.
Or the other two JGR
he's starting from the 6th spot.
Kurt Busch deep. All right, Liehr, we need you to pick, buddy.
So as far as that goes, if I had to choose out of all of those, where this lineup is already built at, we've already got our dominators established on this team. It's time to pick somebody that's going to have some good place differential and somebody that will move up through the field. And with all of those available to us, my pick would be Kyle Larson.
I like that as well. And like I said, I think you did a really ample job of running through the rest of the plays there. Elliott, Logano, Hamlin, Edwards, Kurt Busch,
Yeah.
even Casey Kane. He underqualified this week. Austin,
I like him again, 20th spot.
Hendrick cars have speed. If we're playing Johnson, play Kane too. The cars will come out of the same.
Yeah, no, I love that is the exact argument I made on last week's show, and I'll make it again this week. Pair Johnson and Kane together. I have zero problems doing that. And to be honest, if I wasn't in a situation, if I wasn't in a situation where we freed up so much money to get up to Larson, like I would have definitely played Kane and saved money there. That's another option of this lineup. Just to give you some ideas to toy with, you'll see this lineup as is in the lug nut this weekend. Feel free to compete against it. I would encourage you to make some variations, or hell, disagree with us completely and go in a different route, or listen to Liehr a little bit and go the Truex route. With that said, guys, it's been another episode of the Rubbin' His Racing Daily Fantasy NASCAR Show. It's time to say goodbye. Let's say our goodbyes, boys.
Thanks everyone for watching the show again this week. We really appreciate everyone watching the show. I'm really excited to be back with these guys. I was at Charlotte last weekend, and I'll actually be live from Talladega next weekend. So look forward to a lot of exciting videos and pictures and stuff from Talladega for next week's show. Just excited to get into the racing action this weekend.
Man, Adrian, I'm jealous of you, son, for next week. That's one of my tracks that I really want to go to. But I actually will be out at Kansas Speedway on Sunday watching the race live. But good luck to everybody this weekend. Should be some really fun racing here at Kansas. This is one of the wider tracks, and this is one of the faster 1.5s that they've got on the circuit. So should make for some really interesting racing. I will definitely be all decked out in my Truex gear. And again, make sure you guys comment and also like the show for your opportunity to win this signed postcard by Martin Truex. But almost shipped the qualifier last week, 3rd place, but hopefully going to do it this weekend and see it live. So have a good weekend, everybody.
Yes, and have a great weekend. Remember to like, share, subscribe, favorite, whatever you want to do, share, tell your friends, get more people out there so we can do more cool things with the show. Thanks, you guys, for giving us your time. Hopefully we make a lot of good money this weekend. Peace out, guys.
Have a great weekend, everybody.